lay it flat against your hanger. Right, I went riding the other day, and my shifting was not buttery smooth. It would stay in the gear I put it in for the most part, but it would tend to jump up to the next sprocket or drop down to the lower sprocket when I would torque on the back end. So not 100%. We'll find out why here in a minute. I'll take you through what I do to make sure that my shifting stays buttery smooth, and maybe it'll help you out. Now, I'm going to show you what I do to my bike. What you do to your bike is your business. I'm not telling you how to fix your bike. This is not an instructional video. This is just me showing you what I do. If you break your bike, it's not my fault. You fix your own stuff. Alright, let's get at it. Alright, the first thing we need to do is remove the derailleur. If you push down on the cage, there's a little button here, push in on that button while moving the cage around, and you'll find a spot where the cage will lock so that you don't have spring tension on it. That makes it easier to work with. Alright, so we'll just let that hang there for now. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is use this special tool to check and make sure that the derailleur hanger is parallel with your sprocket, your wheel, the whole assembly. This all needs to be lined up in one nice plane. So the way this works is, got some threads here. They thread in where you just removed your derailleur. Screw it in, make it snug. Okay, now there's this rod here. What you do is you position this rod so that it's next to the rim. Push it in until it just touches the rim. Now, move it around towards the bottom. You want to be 180 degrees from where you just were, roughly. And you push it down. And you can see we're about 1/4 of an inch away from the rim down here, where it was touching the rim up here. That's probably fine. This doesn't have to be 100% precise. I like to put a little extra space at the bottom because that means that you've moved your derailleur hanger out towards the bottom and in towards the top, kind of like this. Because there's usually some slop in your derailleur, and as the chain and spring tension pulls on the derailleur, it will tend to pull the derailleur in towards the bottom. So if there's any slop, this will help counteract the slop. Of course, you know, the more expensive derailleurs have less slop, cheaper derailleurs have more slop. This is kind of a trial and error setting. Find out what works best for you. You just want it to be close, because if, for example, this was way out here and your derailleur hanger was going like this, every time you index that derailleur, instead of indexing one notch straight in, even parallel with the wheel, you're going to be indexing it down at an angle to the wheel, so your horizontal travel is going to be less. So each notch, each index is going to make it travel a shorter distance, so it's not going to line up with the distance between your sprockets, and you're not going to get good shifting. Hopefully that made sense. And then you want to do the same measurement front and back. Sometimes you won't be able to get it
in there because of your frame, swing arm and whatnot, but just get it close. Now in this case, it's a little bit closer in the back than it was in the front. So I'm just going to grab this and bend it a little. Take another measurement. Bring it back up here. Okay, that's almost spot on. So it was out a little bit, front and rear. That will also affect your lateral index travel, because if you're going this way, you're going to travel less for each index than if you're traveling straight in as it should. Now you say to yourself, but Dave, I don't have that fancy tool. Okay, if you have a straight edge, you can accomplish the same thing. What you'll do is you'll lay your straight edge up against your hanger, flat against the hanger, and you pull out a tape measure, and while holding this flat, you measure. It's 2.5, and that's 2.5. All right, then we'll do it this way. Lay it flat against your hanger. Measure against the wheel. 2.5, 2.5. Now, if you don't have that special tool and you've just measured it with your straight edge and decide that you need to move it, you can use an adjustable crescent wrench. Put it up in there, snug it down, and bend it to your heart's content. Alright, now we've got the derailleur screwed back into the derailleur hanger. I put the chain on the smallest sprocket in the back. Now, one other thing that we would do if we were freshly installing a derailleur is we would make sure that the chain is the correct length. To do that on a full suspension bike, you need to compress the suspension, then wrap the chain around your big sprocket and your chain ring, and then add one outside link and one inside link. So 2 whole links, have it overlap, cut your chain there, then assemble it. Another quick way to check is if your chain is on the small sprocket and your chain ring, you want to have all the available slack taken out of the chain, and you want it to just clear the bottom of the cage. So you can see this is right even with the bottom of the cage. That means we have just the right amount of slack. Alright, the next adjustment we need to check is to make sure that this idler pulley, idler sprocket, is lined up with the small sprocket. There are 2 screws, one here and one here. Oddly enough, the one that changes the adjustment for the small sprocket is the screw towards the inside. So you want to make sure that this small sprocket is completely lined up with that idler sprocket. This is how you adjust it. If I move it, you can see it's not lined up. I've moved it way towards the outside. Now I'm going to move it back towards the inside. Okay, that should be lined up. and it was trying to climb up onto the second sprocket a little, so I'm going to back it off just a little. Give it another spin. Okay, I don't hear it trying to climb up. Shift it up and down. Alright. Now we'll shift it up to the biggest sprocket and do the same adjustment. Only this time we're going to use this outer screw. So you go through the same procedure. Just spin it a little until it lines up. Give it a test shift. Now, you want to take it from the second largest sprocket to the biggest sprocket, but you really want to mash on that lever to make sure that it's not going to fall off the inside. You don't want it to push over so far that it knocks the chain off into your spokes. So just give that a test on the bench, like so. Make sure that it doesn't knock off onto the inside. Then run it through the gears. Make sure each one shifts as you feel it should. Now in this case, it's shifting fine. If it were not shifting fine, we would use the barrel adjuster up by the derailleur to take slack out of or put slack into the cable. So here is the barrel adjuster. If you need to move your derailleur over to the left, you would unscrew this. And that would take slack out of the cable, and it would move your derailleur towards the left. If you need to move your derailleur towards the right to get it indexing correctly, you would screw this barrel in. That would put slack into the cable, thus decreasing the tension on the back and letting it relax to the outside position. Okay, the next adjustment that we need to make is called the B-tension screw adjustment. Okay, the next adjustment we need to make is on the B-tension screw. This is your B-tension screw. There's a special tool that you can buy which will put the right amount of gap in, and you basically adjust that to get the right amount of gap. But I do not have that special tool. So what we want to do is we want to put about 3 millimeters between this sprocket and the top of your chain. So I don't know if you can see this very well, but you want to line the chain up with the sprocket so that it's pretty much in line with that idler pulley. You want to get about 3 millimeters while it's on the big sprocket. There's another way to do it. If you put it on the second to the largest sprocket, you will then see you've got your big sprocket tooth here, and you've got the tooth on the idler pulley here. You want to line those two up so that they just overlap, so that they're right even with each other, not quite overlapping. So that's right here. You can can see there's almost no gap between that tooth and that tooth. Let's see if we can get the wheel out of the way. There we go. So at that point, that's where your B tension screw is going to be set. That is a correct adjustment for your B tension screw. So run it through all the gears several times. And that's pretty much all there is to it.